Hello, I wish you could see what actually goes on behind the scenes. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm doing this creepy little crouch. I'm normally like this, everyone does the creepy crouch to me because I'm so short. Okay, I'm just gonna get in the car. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, which I bloody love filming. Today I've just had 2 clients. There's no electricity in the gym, which we have been given plenty of notice of, but it's like a morgue in there. So I'm gonna go and get some oats from my favourite vegan place. And then we're gonna go for a little walk, and I'm just gonna cover off today a bit about my journey, because I feel like you can't really give that much across on Instagram, but I want to tell you all about, I suppose, why I started exercising, my competing journey, the reasons behind that, my relationship with food, therapy. So deep chats today, make a cup of tea, get involved, and yeah, let's go. Oh, it's a bit dusty, isn't it? It's getting washed on Monday. Fucking hell, Vic. Oh, my heart just dipped then. I nearly took the front of someone's car off, staring at that motorbike. This is also my bad angle. I know we've discussed this before. Well, it's when I go in the sunlight that you see that I was actually born ginger. And I get all my ginger flecks in my hair. Oh my God.
Auburn's good.
Auburn is good. I'm making such a meal out of this. There we go, right. Let's go. I have spent hours down P. Diddy tunnels, Beyonce conspiracies, Jaguar right, like the whole of Hollywood is coming down. Mum said to me the other day, Vic, I feel like the whole of Hollywood is getting cancelled. Maybe if we wanted to be actors, we could get a role. Like, I have been down a rabbit hole, but I feel like Beyonce and Jay-Z are next. And everyone thanks Beyonce. Everyone thanks Beyonce in their acceptance speeches. Thank you kindly, sir. In their acceptance speeches when they win awards, and they're saying that Taylor Swift was saved by Kanye West, who I don't think is so crazy anymore, because he said Beyonce should have won when Taylor got the award, and all the Swifties hated on him, but it's a rabbit hole. So if you want to save some time, don't watch TikTok. Oh, there's one left. It's got my name on it. This is chai-soaked oats. In it is gluten-free oats. I've been gluten-free now for like 4 months. Dates, chai spice, cinnamon, black tea, coconut milk, and fresh fruit. So good. This is a lot though, so I'll probably end up eating about half, because that's a lot of oats. Thank you. Perfect. Let's go. So, where to begin, really? I suppose I just want to give a bit of background about kind of, you see the end result. There's no end result. The game doesn't get completed. But I suppose if you're new to my channel or you're new to following me, you haven't seen the whole journey I've been on, and there's only so much of that I can kind of express on Instagram. So, I think everyone has the perception that I'm just small, I'm petite, I've always been in shape. But if you look back on my Instagram, that's absolutely not the case. And you know, at 18, I got an office job, and you gain a cheeky stone when you get an office job. And I genetically gain weight super quick. And my older brother, you know, Mark, stole the whole gene pool. So I have to fight for every single pound. Like, I have to work out. I have to have low calories. I have to watch what I eat. I'm just one of those people, but I think the perception you might see is that like, oh, she's petite, she's in shape, but honestly, I have to work for it, and I always have. And if I gain 6 pounds, it goes straight to my face, it goes straight to my stomach. Like, you can physically see it, to the point where if I lose 2 pounds, people in the gym are like, oh, Vic, you look leaner. So I really have to work for it. So yeah, when I got an office job, that is exactly what little doggo, that is exactly what I had to do. I had to get a gym membership. And I suppose from there, you know, I went to the gym. I didn't know what I was doing. I was following a Spartan 300 workout book. I was in the cardio area. You know, I was never confident enough to go into the weights area. I would set up a little area on a mat, and I would do my workout that way. I tried loads of different things. I did keto diet. I did paleo. I used to order the Graze boxes and eat the whole thing in one go. Like, looking back, the amount of calories and sugar in that. But I didn't know what I was doing. I would just guess. I would eat like 3 bananas some days and think that was, you know, healthy. So yeah, I've tried everything. I've tried raw fruit diets, you name it, I've tried it. But I didn't know what I was doing. So I suppose how I got into competing from there was I went through a breakup, and yeah, I would still say it's the worst thing I've ever been through. I think your first breakup always is. And I felt like I was blindsided a bit. So after 6 years, we just broke up. I'm quite stubborn. And I was like, fine, watch this. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me, looking back, because you think that person's the one, and then you very quickly learn they were never the one. So I moved home, cried every day for 10 months, every day. Me and my friend were going through it at the same time, and we like trauma bonded over it. And how Ange dealt with me, I used to cry every Sunday. She'd start cleaning and I'd cry every Sunday, like how she didn't shake me. I did hot yoga every day. I was in this like horrendous headspace. I weighed 6 stone. I was so spotty and skinny. I couldn't eat. I lived on a hot chocolate every day. I couldn't eat. I was a mess. It's the worst place I've ever been. But as you do, you start to pick yourself back up, and I was like, I'm going to get a coach. Instagram wasn't like that big back then. So I've been following this girl. I won't name her because I don't rate her. And she has 6,000 followers. And 10 years ago, 6,000 followers was a lot. And she was my protein athlete and, you know, was becoming big within the industry. Anyway, I decided I wanted a 6-pack. I don't think I've ever had a 6-pack. And I wanted to do pull-ups. So I got myself a coach. I was in Monaco with Mum for Mum's 50th. And I said, I'm going to go with this girl. I'm going to get a coach. I can't even think how much it cost back then. I sound old saying that. But I got a coach, and I started I suppose, learning about the gym and having plans and food plans and check-ins and that kind of thing. So with her, I kept pushing the goal, and I was like, what's next, what's next? And I suppose I was inspired by her. She competed, so I was like, I'm going to compete. So I just want to say that competing is a positive experience if you're in a positive place. And I was in the worst place I possibly ever have been. So I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it as a plaster. I was doing it to kind of have a focus, it was like an outer body experience. And I look back on it and I think, I would never, ever, ever do that again. I would never do it again. But that's because I've worked so hard to come out the other side of that. And I'll talk a bit more about that. But I did 4 shows. One of them she should have pulled me from, but she'd blown up so much on Instagram that I just wasn't a priority for her. So a lot of my coaching methods, I've had multiple coaches. I've had 4. 3 of them were amazing. I'm still with one. But I saw how she treated me, and I would never do that to one of my girls. But yeah, I did 4 shows. I have many regrets. I had to say no to, you know, my mum's birthday. I was the girl known as the one that was bodybuilding and that was eating out of Tupperware at baby showers. I had to go on a hen do sober. I cried when I got home. It was the worst experience for me, because trying to keep up with a bunch of girls who were drunk all weekend, and rightly so. I have so many regrets from it, but it was a huge achievement, but a huge plaster at the same time. And I get it all the time. People are like, Vic, would you ever do it again? Absolutely never. Like, I've worked too hard. But I didn't place in the first show. I didn't place in the second show. So when you place, it's top 3. And I did bikini. So think of the tan, think of the sparkly bikini, think of training twice a day, think of I was on 900 calories at the end, 45 minutes HIIT cardio, a training session. I was so hungry I couldn't sleep. I was so angry where I was so hungry. My work suffered. I didn't want to see anyone do anything. I used to go around to my mum's house and she'd make me a spa. She reminded me of that the other day. It's crazy what you forget, but I used to sit on her sofa every Saturday and she'd get me a blanket and she'd just make me a spa. And some days I was so hungry, I would eat all of my allocated food on my plan by 11 a.m. And then you're screwed because you can't eat anything else. And for, how long was it? For 18 weeks, I think I had like 2 Nandos, which were, I was allowed to have. As like a refeed and a bit of a boost for energy and how your body looks. But oh my God, like never again. But the last show I did, I just turned the SAS level up. I was like, oh, this needs to end, but I need to place. So I came 3rd. I was so buzzing with it, but the come down is huge. I cried the entire next day. And then it's like, what's next? And you've worked so hard to be in the best shape of your life. And it's super subjective. You're in front of 6 judges who don't know you from Adam. and they're like, oh, your glutes aren't big enough, or your hamstring development, tie isn't the best quality, or it's who turns up on the day, and it's you versus you. You just have to be better each time. But I got my trophy, and that was it. I literally hung up my horrible plastic heels, and then the work really began from there, I'd say. So after competing, I suppose that's when the journey really began, because you have to think you're in the best shape of your life, and then you have to reverse out of that. You can't live at those calories, but you also have to slowly increase your calories. Otherwise, you'll do something called rebounding, where your body's like a sponge, you gain weight really quickly. So you have to reverse out of it. It's reverse dieting. So you kind of have to watch yourself lose everything you've worked towards. That's the mentality anyway. And I started doing secret cardio. I started thinking I need to try and burn some of this off to stay in shape. But the good thing was I instantly told my coach that that's what I was doing. I was like, I need to call myself out. I'm not eating more food and I'm doing more cardio. So that was good, but I still had some really, really terrible behaviors. So I would binge every Friday night. So where you're so restricted, your body overrides you and you have no choice. Like, you have no say. So once you start eating, it was emotional eating, I suppose. And I didn't realize until I had therapy, which I'll touch upon, but I would binge every Friday night. And that's because on a Friday, I'd be like, I was single and I was like, I should be out doing something, but I was lonely. So and every Friday I would tell myself, I will never do this again. This is the last binge, to the point where I would eat and eat and eat so much food that the next day I'd wake up and my skin would be sore to touch. Like, I was so bloated and so sore, where there was so much water under my skin, where I had eaten so much food. I would feel like hungover, I would feel horrendous. And I was like, okay, that was the last time. And it was never the last time. I binged every Friday. And that's because I was so restricted, at work. I would say like no to everything, social events. I wouldn't want to eat if I'd had a couple of plans the same weekend. I'd want to cancel one because that was way too much, out of my control as to what I could eat. I just was so restricted. And it got to the point where I'd go over to my best friend's house, Amber, and without even having the conversation, she knew where I was at, and her husband would say, Vic, there's dinner here, there's some spare, get involved. And I'd be like, no, thank you. And he said, no, honestly. And Amber, honestly, she would just jump on him and say, she said no, leave her alone. And I hadn't even had that conversation with her, but she would always have my back because silently she knew where I was at. I would never get involved. Now I'd be like, yeah, get me a plate, but there's so much work that's gone on to get there. So I suppose the next time it was really highlighted for me was when I met Tom. And I suppose a mirror's held up, because your behaviours with food and it gets highlighted. And when I first met Tom, I knew that I had to get some therapy and I needed some extra help. So I met Tom the year of lockdown, and that's when I started my therapy. But I was in therapy for a year, and she's an amazing woman, but it always came back to the same. Why am I the way I am with food? And at the end of a year, she said, Vic, I honestly don't think I'm the right person for you. I don't know why I had low self-worth. I think that comes down to the relationship and some childhood behaviours. But I wasn't worthy. So I kind of beat myself up, and my coping mechanism was food. And that's how I controlled it and myself. So I had some therapy. She couldn't help me. It just became very lifestyle stuff, like, oh, this week this happened. So I had EDMR therapy, so like rapid eye movement therapy, and had 4 sessions. It was a very spenny, but what's expensive when you're kind of fighting yourself every single day mentally. So there were Zoom sessions. I would do them in my car because Tom would never judge me, but it's very private, isn't it? So I would sit in my car, and it was a guy called Russell. He lived in Kent. And I had 4 sessions, and I felt like I've not needed therapy since. He made me rewind kind of some memories in my head, and my eyes would flicker, and I'd be like, why am I crying? It was the craziest experience. And from there on in, I got a lifestyle coach who I am with now. Still with her, it's been, 2.5, 3 years. but I've not binged in the last 2 years. I can't tell you the last time I even considered binge. I hate the feeling of feeling full. So I've come so far, but going back to when I first met Tom, you know, I would be in the supermarket. I mean, now I look at everything because of dairy and gluten and my stomach issues, which I also think is linked to my past. But I'd literally pick something up and I'd be looking at it, and no joke, he would come walk past me and he would just take it out of my hand and put it in the basket, and I would laugh because that is exactly what I needed. Like, I was so caught up on calories and what was in everything, and no joke, I would go into the supermarket and my whole jaw would tense and I'd get really shitty and I'd get really like, It was too overwhelming. I didn't know what to eat, what I was allowing myself to eat. And it became a really stressful experience that it took me so long to tune into. Like, I was so tense and I would only loosen up when I left the supermarket. It was too much for me. So I feel like I've come such a long way with food, like, and that's but that had to happen to me for this to be my whole ethos with coaching. Like, I was eating cod with cinnamon on it whilst I was competing with green beans, and I was eating steak for breakfast and turkey mince, and so much so that my food was so bland, and the stress I was under, not from competing, but from, you know, from some memories that went back to my ex and how stressed I was during the breakup. I believe you don't just get ulcerative colitis unless it's hereditary. It's so much stress that it has to go somewhere, and I feel like my gut took the brunt of that. It's your second brain, and I feel like when the stress and the emotions are in your tissue and it's not released, your body has to react. So I suppose with all that in mind, how I've got to the place I'm in today after the therapy and the support is I suppose the help and the skills I've learned and the trust I've built with my own lifestyle coach. You know, she's taught me things about hunger and fullness cues and about binging, and, you know, about how my body works, how I eat mindfully now and the choices I make. And you know what, when I met her, I couldn't track because it triggered me, and I can now successfully be in a calorie deficit and lose weight without even tracking. You know, some of my girls, without tracking. So the skills I've invested and learned within her and within myself, I can implement with my girls. You know, you've seen on my Instagram that my girls might send me pictures if they're out on the road or they find tracking overwhelming. Like, I can help them with the accountability that way. I teach them about hunger, fullness. I teach them about, you know, the way they talk to themselves and compassion and gratitude. And if they're really struggling with body image, then we work on sending me 5 things a day that they're grateful for, because then that is proven, you know, scientifically with your image and your body image and perception of yourself. And I feel like, I'm going to say it, I've changed so many women's lives. And I had someone message me yesterday and say, I honestly cannot thank you for how you've changed my life this year. And you know what? The fact that she now views herself the way she does, and she's not beating herself up, and she does things for herself, like even doing your own skincare, putting SPF on every day is self-care. Like, you actually care about your body. And the fact she feels like that, my heart just skips a beat that she actually now cares about herself. So I'm so passionate that there's more to life, there's a balance to be had, and I feel like I've gone through the trenches with it, but I had to go through all that to even get to where I am today and to feel how I feel about there being a balance. And, you know, it's all tailored. Like, some of my girls like to track, they like numbers. Some of my girls hate the idea of weighing food, so they send me their pictures. Some girls want a structured food plan. Some want to just have some numbers so that they can track on MyFitnessPal themselves and have way more flexibility. But it's about living your life, and it's about feeling the best version of you whilst being healthy. Health is everything, and I think having ulcerative colitis has just highlighted that further for me. So I suppose that's a bit of a backstory about me. You wouldn't get any of that from Instagram, and yeah, I'm just really passionate that sometimes you don't know someone's story, and I think that when I see people in the gym, you don't know what someone's been through to get to the place they're at. So yeah, I suppose going forward, my goals are I train 3 times a week. I love strength training. You know, I go through fat loss phases where I'm currently in one now. I've just got 1 more pound to go that needs to show on the scales, but I care about my health, and I'm constantly, you know, finding ways that my body works more effectively, and to stop flare-ups and to have more energy, and for my skin to, you know, not have rosacea, and my hair, like how to get my hair thicker and how to fix my gut biome. And so for me, health is everything, and so is having a secchi with my mum watching Strictly, and so is going to a brunch with the girls, and, you know, so is eating out a couple of times a week. I love eating out. I love food. So it's balance for me, and it's so achievable to stay in shape, have accountability with my own coach, whilst keeping all my girls accountable, but living your life. Like, life's way too short to have food plans that feel super restrictive, or diets that are super restrictive that you have to be on or off. If you're on or off, it's not a lifestyle, and it's not a lifestyle for you. So that is, honestly, if I might get it tattooed on my forehead, because that's how passionate I am. That is my story. I've now got to head back to the gym. I've got another PT babe, which I absolutely love, training my girls in the gym. So I've got a PT babe. I'm going to go and eat, and then, yeah, it's Friday afternoon, so I'm going to have a great weekend. If anything I've said today resonates with you, or you want to know more, I'm an open book, you know, no question is too much. Drop me a message in the comments. If you feel too shy about that, then absolutely drop me a DM. My Instagram is vic.hp, and I'd love to have a chat with you. You know, I don't think anyone's got it easy, and we've all got our own habits and little demons and little devils that sit on our shoulder. So drop me a DM, we'll have a chat, babe.